What are your final four teams in this bracket now that you've had a little bit of time to consume it?
So I've got one number one seed going, and it's the number one seed I have the least faith in, ironically, which is Tennessee's bracket, Purdue. I got Purdue going to the Final Four. I think it's by default. I just think they got a great draw that they should be very happy about. They're not really going to play in any semi-road games, and so I think they'll get to the Final Four. From the Midwest region, because I think Auburn's upsetting Houston by playing in Birmingham, opens the division, opens it wide open. I think Indiana's going to come out of there, believe it or not. I think Indiana plays the first couple of weekends in Albany, and they're better than every team, so it's not like it's home court, but it's not like they're on the road. They play the next weekend in Missouri. Dave, you know this. Indiana's a basketball blue blood almost, and Missouri ain't that far away. And they're going to show up in Missouri. And so I got Indiana being the lowest seed in the Final Four. They're a 4 seed. So I got Arizona. I've got Arizona. I'm sorry, I'll get to Arizona. But so I got Purdue and Indiana on opposite sides. Indiana's going to face UCLA. UCLA plays the first two games in Sacramento. Not a hard drive for UCLA fans. And then they play the next two in Nevada. I think UCLA would have more fans in Vegas than Gonzaga, which I think they're going to meet in the Sweet 16. And I think they would have more fans in Kansas. Dave, you tell me. I don't know. Maybe Kansas would have more fans than UCLA. And in Vegas?
Wow. If you can get across Death Valley, and you can this time of year, that's not a terrible drive. So if I were a UCLA fan, I would be in Vegas. Let's put it that way. And I vowed to never go to Vegas again. But I would take that trip if my team were there. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so I'm going to stick with it then. So I got Indiana and UCLA on one side and Purdue on the other. And then coming out of the South, I don't think Alabama's getting out of there. I've got Arizona going to the Final Four. And here's why I don't think Alabama's getting out of there. I think my Cinderella team is College of Charleston, the 12th seed in that region. I've got them going to the Elite Eight. Yes, beating Alabama in the Sweet 16. Because of something you talked about, which is the Brandon Miller thing can get them a couple wins, but at some point it's going to crash. College of Charleston is the best low seed in this tournament. I'm a huge fan of their style of play. So that's going to get Arizona to the Final Four. Arizona beats Purdue. UCLA beats Indiana. All Pac-12 national championship game, and Arizona wins.
All Pac-12 national championship game. Wow. For a conference that's been torn apart by football expansion. And really, if you look at it, basketball, it's just kind of an afterthought with what they've been doing in football. Think about the matchups that will be taken away, the rivalries when you have UCLA and USC that are in the Big Ten. Think about, you lose some of those Cals, you lose some of those other games on the West Coast that you're not going to have. Arizona State, a lot of those, and really it doesn't matter because football is what drives the train financially. So there you go. Well, I'll tell you who I'm definitely rooting against is Alabama. I do think that you're right. I think at some point that, hey, I'm going to ask you about this gun situation, which they have to show up. For those that don't know, they have to show up for the press conferences. It's not like you can just duck them like you can when you're in Tuscaloosa. So I'll go Arizona to come out of the South instead of Alabama. But that's part of my heart as much as anything. As far as out of the West, I do have Kansas coming out of there. I'm going a little chalkier than I usually like to. Houston wouldn't be chalk. I don't have them coming out of the Midwest, but I'm actually going to take Texas out of the Midwest. And then in Tennessee's bracket, the East, man, I'm going real chalky. It's almost Purdue by fault and or by default. And really you look at that and tell me a team that you really like to win the East. You could say Duke, they had a flourish at the end of the year. Tennessee, on the other hand, stumbled towards the end. Marquette, maybe. I just don't see another team as long as Purdue plays its best game. And I don't think there's elite teams this year, but if Purdue plays its best game in particular in that region, I think there they go. So Elias says Marquette, Arizona, Kansas, Houston. So we're pretty close. I got Purdue there, Elias. Travis says Tennessee, Indiana, Kansas State, and Alabama. A lot of fun. Love picking the Final Four teams. And you said you had Cinderella teams. As I remind everyone to hit that thumbs up button. The like button gets us more people on board. And you haven't subscribed yet, you're crazy, because we got Cooper Mays coming up this afternoon. So do you have a Cinderella team in particular that sticks out that you haven't mentioned at this point?
No, I'm sticking with the one I named earlier, College of Charleston. They're a 12 seed. I think the 12th seed, College of Charleston, is going to the Elite Eight.
It's pretty strong.
They're going to be the ones to knock off Alabama in the Sweet 16.
They're going to have to go find a nun, I guess, at some point, because it seems like every time we've got a Cinderella, we've got a nun involved. She wrote a book, by the way. Is it Sister Mary? Is that her name? What's her name?
Sister Jean.
Sister Jean.
She didn't write that book. Someone else wrote it. Okay.
Well, I didn't think so. She's 90-some years old. I didn't think she really wrote the book. First segment of the program brought to you by Bassey Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it's worth the drive. Bassey Lawn and Garden is fantastic, and it is their official kickoff the season sale, and it's going to be this weekend. Factory reps on hand. It's going to be phenomenal. You will love it. And they've got the industrial mowers. They've got the commercial mowers. Toro, count on it. They are fantastic. Bassey Lawn and Garden, man alive, it's worth the drive. John said with this team, who knows what we do. If we are shooting more threes, then we may be in trouble. We just try to force too many. Great looks, but the rim shrinks. It often does in the tournament. I don't think Tennessee's going to start chucking threes, though. I don't know really what they're going to do when they drop it down to the post and have to kick it back out. And if people have scouted Tennessee, that's the one thing you've got to remember. It is very incumbent upon assistant coaches to do their job this week. Okay, so you will have one assistant coach that will scout the opening opponent, and you'll have another coach that will scout one of the two possible opponents in the second round. Then the third coach will scout one of the other possible opponents. So you're scouting three teams right now. It's typically the way most basketball teams that I've been around handling it. So you have to be ready for all three of those teams. Now, does Rick Barnes have a staff from 1 to 4 that can get that done? I don't know. We're going to find out. His tournament success would make you wonder if he has those type of staffs that can do the quick turnarounds and the quick scouts.